Good morning and welcome to the jungle. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist with Liger Partners, and I'm joined today by Janine Kelbach. She is with a very interesting company, does a very niche thing, which is a really great way to grow a business and find clients. Her company is called Right RN, and that is Right RN as in like registered nurse. Yes.
Yes.
So Janine, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Eric. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about what the company does. So where do you guys kind of fit in the whole world of the marketing ecosystem and otherwise?
Sure. So we specialize with the team of nurse writers in subject matter experts in that field of health and wellness, and we provide content for those companies. And with that, we provide social media services as well as SEO to provide some of those results and something that we can track for the clients.
So you're responsible for all those times that I end up on like that WebMD article and decide that I'm probably going to die in the next week.
Yeah. Exactly.
my sister is a nurse practitioner and she's like, stop Googling.
Yeah, get off.
Oh.
But I bet your sister first thing when she's sick, or she'll Google it too.
Yeah,
We all do.
yeah,
We just know what we're reading, right?
we all do. Yeah. So anyway, very interesting. So we were talking right before the broadcast. We have some clients that are in that medical space, and there's writing, and then there's writing, right? Like there's knowing how to make sure that you're saying all the right things, and even in this category, and we can talk a little bit about this. There's some concerns about compliance and what you can say and what you can say and that type of thing. So, but let's step back a minute. Tell me, how did you get into this category? Did you love writing first, or are you a nurse? Like, where was the decision to get into this?
A little of both. So by education, I'm a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse for 15 years in the field of labor and delivery. So I deliver all them babies and I love it. And I actually still am at the bedside little bit, not much anymore, but just because I can't give it up. I mean, and that's really what actually turned me into writing. So in the nursing side, you don't get a lot of creativity time. You are task oriented. You're a very good critical thinker and strategies and approaches to a lot of things, but creativity is not one of them. And
Right.
I love to write. So I started to Google, like many nurses that I work with did. And we Google like how to make more money as a nurse from home, side jobs as a nurse. What can
Yeah.
I do? And writing was one of them. And I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. So I started just pitching clients. I have this idea for your website. Can I write on it? And they said, sure. And then they said, and we'll pay you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they'll pay me
I
to
would
do
have done it for free, right?
I
Yeah.
mean, seriously. So that's how I kind of got started. Then, snowball kind of effect. Started doing that back in 2015. And then I started coaching nurses because they were like, wait, Janine, you do what? How do you do this? So I was starting to show them. And then COVID hit, right? In 2020, COVID hit, and I had to start subcontracting some of my writing work. And throughout those years, I've learned a lot with social media for my own branding and for other clients and SEO behind everything, because that's how you kind of, especially with medical stuff, you have to write it in an SEO format because people want that stuff ranked. And so you're never going to probably get ahead of Mayo Clinic and WebMD, but you want to still get up there. So that's, and I love the science behind SEO. So it's really intriguing to me. So I really like to write towards that. And so then I started the agency because we had so many writers, and I still have so many companies that want that content, that it's really turned into a great thing. And we're just going to keep it going because it is amazing.
Nice. And so for those that are listening who may not know what it is, so search engine optimization. So making sure that when people do that Googling thing, that they end up on the right websites and the right content. So for search, I guess it's interesting, if I think about, if I want to install a fence in my backyard, I'm probably going to Google how to install a fence in my backyard. But when you're writing for this, it's probably different, right? Like I have a pain in my right side, or like the search engine optimization words, keywords potentially are different.
Oh, it's totally different because people search the funniest things sometimes, and they'll be like right side pain, right side of right abdomen pain.
Right.
It's just, and it's
Yeah.
weird because even as humans, we don't even like, it is funny though. Like if you took your phone and you started to search something voice, what comes out of your mouth, you're like, wait, that's whatever. It found something and it knows exactly what to do. So yeah, the keywords behind medical stuff is difficult sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine. It's just all different ways that people would think about it or talk about it. And then, once you get into the content and creating it, talk to me about that process. So is it, you're interviewing doctors? Do you have to do a lot of research to put it together? Like, how do you know what you're putting together is both going to be interesting to the person who's coming to read it and also factual, right? Like,
so it always starts with the audience, right? So whoever our client is, we always start with the audience because sometimes it's the audience of nurses. We write to nurses, and that's a totally different voice than everybody because the career itself is just so different than any other career. And then you have the voice of a patient, and that is seriously like a third grade level. You need to write very, very basic stuff. And really, we always start it with how we teach our patients. So I think that's the advantage of having nurses on my team and even doctors, because we have to talk to our patients very, very basic sometimes. Yeah. Especially, I'll tell you, my background in labor and delivery, teaching people how to take care of a newborn when they've never even done anything with a baby at all, and then to take care of their body.
Allowed to take it home.
Right? You have to
take this home. I don't know what I'm doing.
You give me 2 days here and now I need to take this thing home. What am I going to do? And, the very basics, and give people things to take action on, in a sense of like those bullets in our articles are very listicle type of things. And then, so yeah, definitely audience is always our huge thing. And then, like the topic, we always make our headlines very engaging because we want them to read it. So, we always do things like 5 tips or things you didn't know and things like that around those topics. And we do interview doctors sometimes depending on the topic. So for example, one of our big pharma clients, we needed to talk to some scientists, and it is easier for us as nurses to understand what they're talking about. So we don't have to do too much background before we actually talk to and do the interview. So one of my nurses did an interview recently, and I sit on those interviews with her just to make sure we're on the same page. And then we talk after the interview and make sure she understands exactly how to go forward with the article. So it is fun. We get to meet a whole bunch of different people, and around the whole United States. I think this is the best thing about, the internet, the World Wide Web, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely connected in good ways and bad ways, right? I mean, specifically around this category of, if you're an over Googler, like some people maybe in my life are, right? I don't want to look. I'm like, I don't want to know. It's okay.
Yep.
Because I don't like blood and any of that stuff. And it's funny because my sister's a nurse practitioner, and so she doesn't want to hear anything about business. I don't want to hear anything about blood. So we just don't talk about
business and blood. I love
it. So, do you guys focus in specific, categories, or is medical? Like it really doesn't matter what, like would you be in oncology or maternity and things like that, or does it not matter what the focus is?
Well, what's so cool is our clients come to us and they say, do you have any writers that have experience with oncology? And I'm like, actually, yeah, I can think of one off the top of my head, or 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 labor and delivery, or it's awesome because I have a lot of the nurses I've worked with or work with still. A lot of them have backgrounds with a lot of different areas because they've done the path of a lot of things, and then now they're into the writing side because they're like, well, now what? So yeah, that's what's cool. It's like we can write on a lot of different topics.
Well, and writing is such a nice creative outlet. Like writing is my favorite thing of the things we do. It's the thing that I enjoy the most, and it is getting the right words and getting them to all kind of sync up the way that you want them to, and make sure you're kind of getting across your message. It's fun to put them together and really make them work. So, in the thinking about putting this business together, it sounds like you were a nurse and then you're looking for a side hustle, and now all of a sudden you've got people working for you to do this. Like, talk to me about that whole experience of, just building this into what it is today.
Well, and I think what you said, what you do, it's kind of like what I do now, it's more the project management side of it. And, you say you and your sister don't like the same things, but you do, because you talk about, how you like to build the things and put it all together. And that's what she does too. It's just in a different way. And I've actually talked to my writers about that. Like, we have something called the nursing process when we start to assess patients and think of care plans. And we just use that in a different way when it comes to content. And you have a process, you have a strategy. And as long as you follow those systems and processes, it turns into a great thing, because it's very, systematic approach to a lot of it. So you do a lot of things your sister does. It's just in a different way.
different
it is. And so a little bit different. Yeah. So now the side that I do mostly is the project management side, which is actually what I love the most. I like to write, but I don't love to write. Some of my writers love to write, and they love to do it full time all the time now. So congrats to them. That's, not my area anymore. And it's okay, because I think when you're in business, you need to do what you love. And this is exactly what I love.
Yeah. Well, I'm like from an art perspective, writing is not something I necessarily want to be paid to do. It's something I want to do when I want to do it. And that's a difference.
Oh, totally.
It's like, I like to do it because I want to do it, not because you tell me I have to do it, right? Like, not because it's that assignment thing. So thinking, and an important point that you've made, we talk with our clients all the time about the concept of marketing, and marketing has this kind of Don Draper, Mad Men. It's the big idea, and it's all about being like super creative, which is true, right? Like, you want some creative pieces to it, but if you can't execute it, if you can't operationalize it, you're never ever going to make it work, right? Like, it's more about that part of it. Like, what are you doing consistently? How are you operationalizing your marketing? How are you making it work, just like your finances do? So having an operations mindset, where you and I probably seem to map there, means that sometimes you wouldn't be seen in the marketing realm, but it's a really good skill set to have, right? To kind of make sure you're meeting your objectives and goals.
Oh, when I meet other business owners and they're like, systems, like, what do you mean systems? I'm like, what do you mean you don't have systems? Like, how do you do your job? And I think tools and, just different things along the way that you do learn it. But, I think probably some tips, like if you are doing like writing, or even the writing process, you have to have a systematic approach to it. So, I tell my writers, write down exactly what you're doing. It might be different than what I'm doing, and that's okay. As long as we get to that finish line and you have a way to maybe your next article, you have that system in place, you're going to be fine. You're going to be able to pump out work faster and, make it work for you.
Yeah, very efficient. And when you're creating, so one thing that our clients, when they come to us, they fall in two categories. They've either written a bunch of stuff and it's a bunch of gobbledygook. It's like thousands and thousands of words, and like, we're just keep writing. We're not sure why. We're like, we know, we can tell. Or they're not doing anything at all. So they typically fall in both of those categories. And the struggle on the people who aren't doing anything is, and one of our first exercises is we create a 12-month content calendar with them. We'd like sit down and say, let's pretend like your business was a magazine and you were going to write about that in a magazine for the next 12 months. What would be the topic areas? Like, what would you talk about each month? So when you're starting with a new, client and kind of thinking about what they want, what's your approach to getting them kind of down the path?
Well, I think the first thing, especially we have those clients too that have the gobbledygook, right? The stuff where you're like, okay, you're publishing, but it's nothing's
useful.
Like, right. I don't understand like what you're talking about. And it goes back to not only the audience, but who their main target, like ideal customer is, because sometimes the content is not even close to what, like, as a customer, I would go to them for. So it might just be what they wanted to write on or something. I don't know where their thought process is, but we start there. And then and also them understanding the consistency of going with it. So maybe that other client is doing something, but the last article was 3 months ago or 6 months ago. And then I congratulate them, like, okay, good. This is a great article, but what did you do with it? Because what's the point of writing something if it's just going to sit there? So that's where we also throw in like the social media side of it, because everybody's on social anymore, and the SEO, because 90%, especially in healthcare, I think it's like a 90% of people are searching something in Google every day on something healthcare related. So you want to get in there, especially locally, because if they're a doctor or a clinic, you want them to come to you next for their next dermatology appointment or whatever that might be. So yeah, it is about, creating. We don't do so much 12 months because it's very overwhelming, but we will do 3 months. Just start there. I always say 3 to 5 topic buckets to kind of start with. And then I feel like, even in your own business, like you're starting there and then you have to just brainstorm. And that's sometimes I call it think time. You need time to just away from the business, just to sit down and really think like, what do my customers come to me for? And start very basic. A lot of the doctors we work with are very high level thinkers, and that's amazing. We need them to do that, especially in their field, but they can't even think of basic stuff. So for example, one of the doctors who work at OBGYN, she's like, yeah, one of the pieces I wrote on basic pregnancy, that like how pregnancy happens was so popular. I'm like, you don't understand how basic that is because people don't even understand it. Yeah, we understand how to make a baby, but beyond that, they don't know the baby.
They're like, oh no.
Like that one. So and it is the miracle of life, and people don't understand it and why they need to go to these appointments and why, what you're really looking for when you're checking the baby's heartbeat. Like these very basic things, you can make years worth of content out of.
Well, and it's also about where is that person in their process. So that's one of the conversations we have with clients of, let's use a mortgage, for example. So I could go write, the 5 things you need to know before you get a mortgage. Well, and then I put that out there and I'm like, okay, well, I wrote it and I put it out there. So it's there. Yeah, but your audience may not be getting a mortgage until a year from now or 3 years from now. So that content, if it's evergreen, continue to reshare it, like share it over and over again. My example, I wrote for Inc. for many years. And one of the articles I wrote, which is still my most popular article on that site, is 10 simple marketing tips. Because people Google, I need some simple marketing tips. And it comes up as like the top thing, right? Now, those things were from like 2012. So I don't know that those would be the 10 simple marketing tips I would recommend today. But if you're Googling,
maybe one of them,
then that's going to be a thing that's going to show up. So that reuse of the content, like don't worry about, you wrote it, but our rule of thumb is 10% creation, 90% promotion.
Yes.
So she promoted it 90% more than it took you to write it, because you have no idea when you're going to catch that person.
And you might want to take it down to 85% and 5%, go back in those old articles and update them. Yeah. That's actually one of our clients right now. That's what we're doing. He has like 30 articles that are just sitting there, that have been sitting there. And I just talked to him this past week and I was like, let us revamp these for you. Let us just go in and just update it. And you're going to have awesome 30 articles. And then we'll go from there, because, that's the other thing. Like you don't want their stuff to go to waste that's just sitting there either.
Yeah,
so yeah, definitely.
Yeah, getting that really nice library of content, being able to bring it back over time, making sure that it's sort of organized in a way that people would want to read it. And then they're going to be at different stages than kind of experiencing your business or what you do for them, even though you're an expert at it, right? Like you've been doing it. Like I've talked about that a million times. It's like, yes, but they've not heard it once. They haven't.
Well, and I like what you said about the stages, because even in your simple marketing tips, taking out one of those tips and doing another article on it. And, you never know what stage in the journey that customer or client or patient is in to understand exactly where they're going.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that's missed in kind of the marketing world, and we run into this a lot with sales groups or salespeople, is they want to tell the client everything. And we're like, I can tell them one thing. Like literally that's it. Like if they can walk away from this content, this social media post, this article, and they've learned one thing, I'm very, very happy. Now, hopefully they're going to come back and learn something else or learn more about that one thing. But really and truly, I'm just trying to get across one thing as it relates to the content. And that's a hard thing to do, right? Because you're like, I want to tell everybody everything, and I'm not sure what it is they're looking for. And it's
so excited.
Yeah, exactly. So future for you. So what does it look like for you? Are you still a practicing nurse? Or
Yeah. So I'm on call tomorrow. So
okay. All right.
we'll see. That it seems to be ramping up at the hospital. So I might have to go in and deliver some of the babies. But I'll tell you, it's like what you said, like they pay me to do it because I want to do it now. So before, the reason I really went into this was because I needed a side something, because I was getting burnt out and I realized I didn't like going to work. And if I don't like going to work to deliver someone's child, there's something wrong with me. So I really enjoy going to work now, like when I can, but I don't want to do it all the time. And those 12 to 14 hour shifts are long. And thankfully I'm not on night shift anymore. So that is good. But, as for the business side, we are ramping up. So I have like two sides to the business. I have where my nurses are becoming writers. So there's like a coaching side, and then the content agency side. Last year we built up the coaching side. So I have many writers that are really good, and we're just going to keep that going. And then now we're on the content side, the content agency, more so that we have some retainer clients, but we're definitely wanting to build more of the healthcare side. Like I said, a lot of our clients, or a few of our clients, are nurse audience, and we want more of the patient audience or the consumer audience. So ramping up that side, some lead gen, some good conversations, some relationship building, and that's where we're going to get those clients. So that's the exciting side of it. We'll just see where it goes from there.
Well, nice. Very nice. I love the concept of the side hustle. It's something that you love, and it kind of makes you re-love the regular work too. Because I mean, that's so important to kind of have that balance.
Yes.
Well, very nice to have this conversation with you this morning. Thank you for joining me on The Jungle. I've been talking with Janine Kelbach. She is with WriteRN. That's WRITERN.com, right?
.net.
.net.
Right. What and the .com? They want like $4,000 for the .com.
No. And we'll put everything in the show notes, and we're of course going to share it across social media and all that kind of stuff too. So thank you so much for joining me on The Jungle. You've been listening. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist with Liger Partners, and until next time.